Hello, this is Just the Dis. This is where we talk about Blu-rays. And I always say this, but I'm really going to try and make this quick because I want to sort of make it something you can watch quickly before you go into the Vinegar Syndrome Black Friday sale, which starts, as I understand it, at midnight Eastern Time on, Friday the 27th. So Thursday, late Thursday night, early Friday morning. And, I've learned a lot from some of the people I watch here on YouTube, Aaron Pinn being the first and foremost. And so he has, between his Black Friday videos, which you should be watching if you haven't been, and some other stuff I've gathered, I've made up a little strategy plan for you. You see, because this was announced, or rather, the 250 copies of Rad that are coming for the sale that I guess had severely damaged slipcases. So they're getting 250 more copies of this. So this is going to be the big one. If you want it, you're going to want to get it. You're going to want to get there early, and you're going to want to buy it first. And so here, this is basically the plan we have. All right, so this is the stuff I've sort of weighed out as the potentials to sell out that are interesting titles that people might want. There's obviously more than this, but this is sort of my hierarchy. All right, so Rad, if you really want it, gonna get in there, get Rad. We're gonna break to the left. No, I'm just kidding. You're gonna look for the Forgotten Gialli Volume 1 box set, which, if you were interested in that, is also probably gonna sell out. I mean, I can't be sure. But it's an amazing set, and I just think people are going to be all over it at a discounted price. And then same thing with the Amityville set, which I think Aaron was saying was a lower stock set. And so some of these things are going to sell. And then I put in the new VSA titles as the next. That's one of my things that I'm most excited about. So like that would be my progression: Rad, Forgotten Jelly, Amityville, VSAs. In that order if you want them. So just remember this. This is your plan. Lock it in. But I just went ahead and made a large stack of recommendations that I'm just going to go through with you guys. Oh, get my stack nice so you can see it. So this is just a few of the things I would recommend. And I'll try and be quick because I don't want to go on for an hour. It's just, you don't want that. You just want to know what should I get and why should I get it, I guess. So let's start here. Sudden Fury. This is one that Brad Henderson recommended to me, and I'd heard about it for years. It is a Canadian thriller, some would say Hitchcockian, about a couple on a remote road that get into a fight and get into an accident and then are dealing with how they're going to navigate that after the fight. And things get really complicated. But it's a tense movie. It's very Canadian, but it's really solid. Like a very enjoyable thriller, and not a lot of characters, but still a lot of fun. Start with that. We have Patty Hearst. This is the Paul Schrader movie based on the Patty Hearst kidnapping story. You have Natasha Richardson, of course, playing the lead, and Ving Rhames and William Forsythe in the cast, and basically about how she was abducted by the, what are they called? The Symbionese Liberation Army, and how that sort of became a captor relationship where she started to get involved with them, and it's unclear as to whether or not she was coerced or whatever. Anyway, it's a fascinating story of kidnapping and the 60s or 70s. But it's a really good Paul Schrader movie. There's a Paul Schrader interview on here, and this disc is definitely worth your time if you're into that kind of thing, which I am. This is another Brad Henderson favorite, The Severed Arm. I had never even heard of this movie until Brad Henderson, who of course works for Vinegar Syndrome, told me about it. It's basically a slasher movie, sort of, about a group of guys who get caught in a cave-in, and it looks like they're not going to be able to get out, and so they draw straws to decide who will be eaten. And the guy that loses, they start to take his arm off, then they get rescued. I'm sorry to spoil that beginning, but that's just sort of the first 10 minutes, right? So then when they get out, they realize they didn't have to have taken his arm off, and it seems like a few years later that the people that cut the guy's arm off are getting revenge, are being killed for revenge, slowly stalked by a killer. Is it the guy? Is it somebody else? We don't know, whatever. But it's a cool movie. It's fun. And I love the title. Severed Arm. All right, Shot. This is one I discovered for the first time this year. It is a wonderful student-made film. It's not, I wouldn't necessarily call it a student film, but it was a feature made by students at the University of Illinois in 1973. And they made it clear that this is a French Connection knockoff. So think of it as like a student, film, French Connection, but with, using some student actors, some adult actors, a helicopter. Somehow they got a helicopter and squibs, and, it kind of has the aesthetic of like the Beastie Boys Sabotage video in terms of the clothing. It feels like, I don't know, the Max Fisher Players version of the French Connection, if done in a student film context, if that makes sense, in that it seems to go beyond its reach in terms of the resources they have to make it. And it's just really entertaining. I really liked it. The main guy looks kind of like Bill Hader, so that's kind of fun. So Shot. Putney Swope. This is a Paul Thomas Anderson favorite. It is a Robert Downey Sr. picture, and it is sort of an advertising story. Let's put it like that. It says, assuming he's incapable of winning, all the members of a prestigious Madison Avenue advertising firm accidentally vote to appoint the company's only black executive, Putney Swope, as chairman of the board. His unexpected win behind him, Swope changes the company's name to Truth and Soul Inc., fires nearly all of its elderly white employees, and focuses solely on creating subversive, outlandish, and shocking campaigns. That's kind of what this movie is, really. And so you get to see the campaigns he makes, and it's just a very 60s movie. And it's very outlandish and satirical and still has teeth to it to this day. And it's just a really, really cool movie. Important kind of cool. So Putney Swope. And looks great on this, by the way. Then we have Incubus, which also looks like... What's that inside cover? Not very interesting. But this is objectively one of the best movies that Vinegar Syndrome has put out. However, it is a very disturbing horror movie. It is, it's a story of this small town where John Cassavetes is a doctor, and they start to have these cases of women being attacked and assaulted violently, and it's unclear who's doing it or why, and let's just say that it's not a human being doing it. So it's disturbing, like I said, in a lot of ways, and it's just really well done horror movie. It's alarming, and the ending is killer. I absolutely adore the ending of this movie. It's one of those rare endings where you're just like, wow, that's how you end a movie. Holy smokes. But really good, really dark, and disturbing, but worthwhile. I'm not sure if all these are in print, since the website's not up right now. I couldn't check, but I think this is still around. This is a slasher movie. I talked about this in my slasher favorites video. Madman, very Friday the 13th sort of, a bunch of kids sitting around a campfire talk about this character, this guy, this legend, Madman Mars, and if you say his name, he comes to life and comes to kill you, and of course they do, and he's scary. He's like a big dude with like hobbit feet and an axe and a wispy big old white beard, and he's very scary, and he goes after this whole group of people, and also a good slasher. And speaking of slashers, this is a new one, just came out like last month or so, and I'd never seen it until recently, and I really liked it for what it was, which is a Agatha Christie style slasher. Bunch of people trying to film a movie on an island, and they all start getting knocked off in accordance with this sort of punk song that keeps being found playing on a tape recorder throughout, the whole island. And it stars the guy from Ghostbusters who is doing the psychic thing at the beginning. You can keep the $5 I've had it. That guy is in this, and he's basically the only actor that I recognized. But the kills are pretty gnarly, so keep that in mind. They're on par with, like, sort of later series franchise entries in horror movies, like a later Friday the 13th, where they really cranked it up in the sequels. They're pretty hardcore. But I like this one, and I'd never seen it, so I recommend it. This is another one that Brad likes and that I like, House of the Dead. It's a horror anthology. There's some good stuff in here. As always, there's a couple weaker ones, but overall, I would say there's this great one with a school teacher, I think, that is towards the front of it, maybe the first one, and it's really, really solid. It's a great start, and the rest are all pretty solid too, but definitely one that I hadn't heard of until they put this out, and I think this one is still in print, but don't quote me on that. Another Brad favorite, and another one that I like, Pledge Night, kind of a supernatural fraternity movie. Basically, the sort of, what is it? I'm trying to remember how they go about, they unwittingly unleash the spirit of Acid Sid, an unfortunate pledge who was accidentally dissolved in acid during a hazing prank gone wrong some 20 years earlier. And Acid Sid is like, it's not like Freddy Krueger, but it's kind of like that kind of a supernatural killer kind of crazy thing. But definitely a movie that's underseen, underappreciated, but very entertaining as a slasher horror gem. Another new one, The Caller. This has got Malcolm McDowell and Madeline Smith. And that's the alternate artwork. Really cool. I'm not going to say very much about it because it's much more fun to go in cold, but it's set up as sort of a story where this woman is in a remote cottage in the woods, and Malcolm McDowell shows up saying that his car is broken down nearby. He needs to use the phone, and then they sort of get into a, I don't know, they just start talking to each other in such a way as to let you think there's something else going on, and what else is going on is kind of what the movie is about, and where it goes is rather unexpected. So it's really enjoyable, and one that really caught me off guard. Like, I was just like, I don't know, it's kind of just like a 2-person movie, but there's more than that to it. But I really dug this one. Definitely worth your time. Pick it up. I think this is also still in print. This is Joe Sarno's movie, Red Roses of Passion. Joe Sarno was mostly a softcore filmmaker in the 60s, and he was kind of nudged out of the industry by the introduction of hardcore films in the 70s and such. But he's a real stylish guy, like a guy that John Waters is a fan of, and I know he's definitely influenced other directors, but he's just got a really artistic eye, and this is sort of a Coven of Witches story almost. It's like a woman encounters a friend of hers that brings her to a encounter group with women where they are basically seemingly some kind of a Satan worshipping group on a lower key level. And the main woman starts to involve her with some spells, and it sort of gets involved with her life in certain ways. Anyway, it's beautiful black and white. It's like Ingmar Bergman meets, I don't know, Herschel Gordon Lewis, but not really. More like Ingmar Bergman meets Russ Meyer. I don't know. It's a really interesting combination, and a just beautifully shot movie. And this is newly scanned and restored in 2K from the 35 camera negative. So this one just really, I was doing research for a Something Weird episode of my podcast, Pure Cinema, and I came across this, and it really stuck with me. So that's worthwhile. Then I have a couple slasher spoofs, Pandemonium and Wacko. Pandemonium is my favorite of the two. This is the old VHS artwork. It is, I call it, and I'll preface, or I mean, I'll add a little addendum, but basically I call it the Rock and Roll High School of slasher spoofs. It's like that kind of gag a minute, super silly kind of movie. And the cast is incredible. I mean, it's like, Carol Kane, Tom Smothers, Deborah Lee Scott, Judge Reinhold. There's more. I can't even think of everybody that's in this, but Phil Hartman, I think. And the director, Alfred Soul, did Alice Sweet Alice, which is sort of how he ended up with this job, but he talked about how he was watching like 30s films when he made this, and I know the same thing is true of Alan Arkish when he made Rock and Roll High School, so you can kind of see how the two comedic things are similar. But anyway, goofy and dumb and not everybody's cup of tea, but fun, and to a slightly lesser degree, wacko, which has George Kennedy and Joe Don Baker as this cop trying to solve this high school murder thing, this lawnmower killer that's killing people at this high school around this dance, and it's really dumb. It's Graydon Clark directed, I believe, and it's super silly. But I do think these two together, if you like Student Bodies, you're into that sort of stuff, these are fun. And Joe Don Baker's hilarious in this movie, as is Andrew Dice Clay, Tony Shalhoub. Also awesome, Night Beast. This is that's what the Night Beast looks like. This is a movie from Don Dohler, who's a regional low-budget filmmaker. Get to know him because he's a lot of fun. Massacre Video also put out Fiend, and some of his other stuff can be found on some other labels. But Night Beast is maybe his masterpiece. It's just about this crazy alien. It's like, what if E.T. was that guy and he shot lasers at you and killed a lot of people, and the movie was low budget and weird. I'm not really encapsulating it well, but it can't be encapsulated well because it is an experience. So just get it. Night Beast. Mausoleum, also an experience movie. Definitely just a weird, I should have flipped the artwork on this, but it's got, possession and Marjorie Gortner making crazy faces, and I mean, look at that. That lady on the back should give you an idea of like what we're talking about here. I think I mentioned that in the Vinegar Syndrome favorites I did. I did a Vinegar Syndrome favorites video, which I'll link in here. You should check that out too. But I'm going to cross over with some of that. I think that was in there. This one was in there. There's Nothing Out There, which is another self-aware horror spoofy comedy kind of thing. A little bit more 80s, in its way. It's like a bunch of kids go out to a cabin in the woods. One of them works at a video store and is very much like the Randy character in Scream. And this one, it's just a lot of fun. There's some really interesting meta moments, including a moment where somebody swings on a boom mic. My friend Aaron Penn always talks about how that is a good selling point. It really is. If you're into a movie where somebody swings on a boom mic, then this is definitely your jam. It's silly, but it's really enjoyable and very meta before Scream, and I don't know, I like that one. I think I had The Children in my other Vinegar Syndrome favorites, but they are a bunch of kids whose bus goes through a radioactive cloud, turns them into zombie things, and then when they hug people, they kill them. That's it. It's good. This is a throwaway, but Hobgoblins, this was on Mystery Science Theater, and it's definitely one of the funnier Mystery Science Theaters I can think of, but the movie on disc is also pretty great. Definitely worth picking up. It's just an enjoyable, watch it with a group of people, kind of silly movie. I enjoy that one. All right, then I've got some more recent stuff here. These two, got Cemetery of Terror and Grave Robbers. I'm sure you've heard a lot about these. A lot of people are talking about these. Okay, they are from Ruben Galindo Jr. And there is some speculation that maybe his other film, Don't Panic, might be coming from Vinegar Syndrome at some point. I don't know if that's true or not, but these are definitely interesting. One is kind of like a bunch of kids accidentally resurrect a ancient satanic killer who kills people like Jason Voorhees, kind of. And then, they get themselves in some trouble. And then this one, similar but different in that it's a Halloween night movie, and it says I think I read this already on the show, but bored teenagers decide to pull a ghastly prank to try and impress their girlfriends by stealing a corpse from the local morgue and taking it to a nearby cemetery where they perform a satanic ritual in an attempt to bring it back to life. Unfortunately, they happen to choose the body of savage serial killer. So very similar in a way. Resurrecting killers. It's kind of what he's into. But it's very, they're both Mexican horror movies, but they feel like 80s slashers in a way. So those are fun. Let's see here. What else? I'll do some VSAs. Here's Spellcaster. I've talked about this one briefly. I don't know. It's not a great movie, but it's a lot of fun. It's like a bunch of people win a radio contest, it's like an MTV type contest. And Richard Blade, who's the VJ in Girls Just Want to Have Fun, if you remember him from that. He's basically playing the same guy in this movie. A bunch of kids win a contest to go to a castle to try and find a check for, I forget how much money. It's like $100,000 or something like that. And they end up getting killed by monsters in the castle, kind of. But it's cool. I mean, the effects are the big selling point. Effects, I believe, were done by John Carl Buechler, and Brad was telling me that the effects scenes were in fact directed by Buechler. So those scenes are really good. So when people get themselves into trouble with a monster, then Buechler would take over and direct those scenes. So I like those scenes, and it's a cool, silly, throwaway 80s plot, a game movie, if you will, like a Midnight Madness or something, So I don't know. I kind of like this one. I thought this was a worthwhile watch. And then this, if you're going to get one single VSA title, I mean, outside of the new ones, which I don't know exactly what they'll be, but LA Wars is a blast. I talked about this on the live stream, and it's just, warring gangs in LA, undercover ex-cop gets involved, and crazy shootouts, and it's a lot of fun. Great dialogue, low budget. I don't know. Just pick it up. I think this is just one that needs to be experienced. So get that. Best Friends. This is a different kind of movie. This is more of a drama, sort of a thriller. Basically, two guys. One of them's getting out of jail or the army. I can't remember which. And they, including serving the army, but now things are different. Both are engaged to be married and take their lives in different directions. Deciding to share one last road trip with their respective fiancés in tow, tensions quickly rise. So basically, these two guys have known each other a long time. They've been real good friends. They've, hung out with the ladies together, and now they're maybe going to get married. And so the one guy who seems unstable from the beginning a little bit starts to get more and more unstable and more aggressive towards the fiancé of the other guy. And it just goes dark. It goes really dark, but it's a really interesting road movie from this period. It's from 1974, I think. And yeah, this one really stuck with me. Really an interesting 70s drama, I wouldn't put it in league with something like Two-Lane Blacktop exactly, but it's a universe, close to that somewhere. I don't know, but very interesting. And then this one is another one that, if you listen to the podcast, I did an interview with Brad Henderson. He recommended a ton of movies, and this was one of them. It's like a low-budget vampire, black and white. If you like Abel Ferrara's The Addiction, it's like a little along those lines, just like dirty New York apartments. But I don't know. This is really an interesting one. Really an interesting one. And if you're looking for sort of a quasi, it's not quite avant-garde, but it's definitely indie and strange in parts, vampire movie, this is your jam. And last but not least, Alphabet City. Now this is one of the partner labels. That's Fun City Editions, and it's a great new label. I love them. And this Alphabet City is their first release. They have one called I Start Counting, which I don't know if that will be on sale, but I don't have that yet, and I'm gonna get it. That one, this one's a neo-noir with Vincent Spano. He's a low-level drug dealer trying to get out of the business, get disentangled with his mafioso folks. And it sort of takes place over one night, and it's really stylish with lots of beautiful gelled lighting over the city, and it looks amazing. And on this Blu-ray, it looks even better. So this is their first release, and I just loved it. So I Start Counting has Jenny Agutter, very young, and it's a movie that hasn't been available. It's kind of a thriller. I've heard maybe a little almost Hitchcock vibes, sort of not Stranger on a Train, but just along the lines of Shadow of a Doubt, maybe, or something like that. That's I Start Counting, and then they have a new one which they've been teasing, the movie Jeremy with Glynis O'Connor and Robbie Benson, and I think that's one of the great coming-of-age dramas of the 1970s, and so I would recommend snagging that too, although these titles won't necessarily be on sale because they're new titles, but I don't know, I would say if you're interested in good movies, then these are fun to pick up. So that's really kind of it for my recommendations. Hopefully there's something in here for you to latch onto and maybe get with a sale. Leave comments below with what you did get with the sale if you end up going to buy something from the Vinegar Syndrome sale. I'd love to know what you got, and thank you for watching this, and like the video if you like these sort of videos, and I'll try and do more of them close to the times when sales are happening so I can give you something really close to when you could use the information, basically. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.